Welcome to 10 Minutes a Day, a daily reading of the Catholic Church's social encyclicals. Today we continue with Quadragesimo Anno, written by Pope Pius XI in 1931.
Quadragesimo Anno, Encyclical of Pope Pius XI on the reconstruction of the social order, to our venerable brethren, the patriarchs, primates, archbishops, bishops, and other ordinaries, in peace and communion with the Apostolic See, and likewise to all the faithful of the Catholic world. Venerable brethren, and beloved children, health and apostolic benediction. 40 years have passed since Leo XIII's peerless encyclical on the condition of workers first saw the light, and the whole Catholic world, filled with grateful recollection, is undertaking to commemorate it with befitting solemnity. Other encyclicals of our predecessor had, in a way, prepared the path for that outstanding document and proof of pastoral care, namely, those on the family and the holy sacrament of matrimony as the source of human society, on the origin of authority and its proper relations with the Church, on the chief duties of Christian citizens, against the tenets of socialism, against false teachings on human liberty, and others of the same nature, fully expressing the mind of Leo XIII. Yet the encyclical on the condition of workers, compared with the rest, had this special distinction, that at the time when it was most opportune and actually necessary to do so, it laid down for all mankind the surest rules to solve aright that difficult problem of human relations called the social question. For toward the close of the 19th century, a new kind of economic life had arisen, and the new development of industry had gone to the point in most countries that human society was clearly becoming divided more and more into two classes. One class, very small in number, was enjoying almost all the advantages which modern inventions so abundantly provided. The other, embracing the huge multitude of working people oppressed by wretched poverty, was vainly seeking escape from the straits wherein it stood. Quite agreeable, of course, was this state of things to those who thought it, in their abundant riches, the result of inevitable economic laws, and accordingly, as if it were for charity to veil the violation of justice which lawmakers not only tolerated times sanctioned, wanted the whole care of supporting the poor committed to charity alone. The workers, on the other hand, crushed by their hard lot, were barely enduring it, and were refusing longer to bend their necks beneath so galling a yoke. Some of them, carried away by the heat of evil counsel, were seeking the overturn of everything, while others, whom Christian training restrained from such evil designs, stood firm in the judgment that much in this had to be wholly and speedily changed. The same feeling those many Catholics, both priests and laymen, shared, whom a truly wonderful charity had long spurred on to relieve the unmerited poverty of non-owning workers, and who could in no way convince themselves that so enormous and unjust an inequality in the distribution of the world's goods truly conforms to the designs of an all-wise Creator. Those men were without question sincerely seeking an immediate remedy for this lamentable disorganization of state, a secure safeguard against worse dangers. Yet such is the weakness of even the best minds that now rejected dangerous innovators, now hindered in the good work by their very associates, advocating other courses of action, and uncertain in the face of various opinions. They were at a loss which way to turn. In such a sharp conflict of mind, therefore, while the question at issue was being argued this way and that, nor always with calmness, all eyes often turned before the chair of Peter, to that sacred depository of all truth, whence words of salvation pour forth to all the world, and to the feet of Christ's vicar on earth were flocking in unaccustomed numbers men well versed in social questions, employers and workers themselves, begging him with one voice to point out finally the safe road. The wise pontiff long weighed all this in his mind before God. He summoned the most experienced and learned to court. He pondered the issues carefully and from every angle. At last, admonished by the consciousness of his apostolic office, lest silence on his part be regarded as failure in his duty, he decided, in virtue of the divine teaching office entrusted to him, to address not only the whole Church of Christ, but all mankind. Therefore, on that 15th day of May, 1891, that long-awaited voice thundered forth, neither daunted by the arduousness of the problem, nor weakened by age, but with vigorous energy. It taught the whole human family to strike out in the social question upon new paths. You know, venerable brethren and beloved children, and understand full well the wonderful teaching which has made the encyclical on the condition of workers illustrious forever. The Supreme Pastor in this letter, grieving that so large a portion of mankind should live undeservedly in miserable and wretched conditions, took it upon himself with great courage to defend the cause of workers, in whom the present age had handed over, each alone and defenseless, to the inhumanity of employers and the unbridled greed of competitors. He sought no help, either from liberalism or socialism, for the one had proved that it was utterly unable to solve the social problem aright, and the other, proposing a remedy far worse than the evil itself, would have plunged human society into great dangers. As the problem was being treated for which no satisfactory solution is found, unless religion and the Church have been called upon to aid, the Pope, clearly exercising his right and correctly holding with the guardianship of religion and the stewardship over those things that are closely bound up with it, have been entrusted especially to him, and relying solely on the unchangeable principles drawn from the treasury of right reason and divine revelation, confidently, and as one having authority, declared and proclaimed the rights and duties within which the rich and the proletariat, those who furnish material things and those who furnish work, ought to be restricted in relation to each other, and what the Church, heads of states, the people themselves directly concerned, ought to do. The apostolic voice did not thunder forth in vain. On the contrary, not only did the obedient children of the Church hearken to it with marveling admiration and hail it with the greatest applause, but many also who were wandering far from the truth, from the unity of the faith, and nearly all who since then, either in private study or enacting legislation, have concerned themselves with the social and economic question, feeling themselves vindicated and defended by the supreme authority on earth, Christian workers received this encyclical with special joy. So, too, did all those noble-hearted men who long solicitous for the improvement of the condition of workers, had up to that time encountered almost nothing but indifference from the many, and even rankling suspicion, if not open hostility, from some. Rightly, therefore, all have these groups constantly held the apostolic encyclical from that time in such high honor that to signify their gratitude they are wont, in various places and in various ways, to commemorate it each year. However, in spite of such a great agreement, there are some who were not a little disturbed, and so it happened that the teaching of Leo XIII, so noble and lofty, and so utterly new to worldly ears, was held suspect by some, even among Catholics, and to certain ones it gave offense, for it boldly attacked and overturned the idols of liberalism, ignored long-standing prejudices, and was in advance of its time beyond all expectation, so that the slow of heart disdained to study this new social philosophy, and the timid feared to scale so lofty a height. There were some also who stood, indeed, in awe of its splendor, but regarded it as a kind of imaginary ideal of perfection, more desirable than attainable. Venerable brethren and beloved children, as all everywhere, and especially Catholic workers who are pouring from all sides into this holy city, are celebrating with such enthusiasm the solemn commemoration of the 40th anniversary of the encyclical on the condition of workers, we deem it fitting on this occasion to recall the great benefits this encyclical has brought to the Catholic Church and all human society, to defend the illustrious Master's doctrine on the social and economic question against certain doubts, and to develop it more fully as to some points, and lastly, summoning to court the contemporary economic regime and passing judgment on socialism, to lay bare the root of the existing social confusion, and at the same time point the only way to sound restoration, namely the Christian reform of morals. All these matters, which we undertake to treat, will fall under three main headings, and then the entire encyclical will be devoted to their development.